In today's video, we're going to be doing our Eastern Conference playoff previews. We're going to take a look at each series. I'll give you my analysis on which team I think is going to win. And that's coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams. So if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. Alright, so as I mentioned off the top, we're going to take a look at the four series going on in the Eastern Conference. I'll give you my analysis on who I think is going to win. And we'll take a look at some key points for each team. And then down in the comments, I want you to leave your thoughts on who you think is going to win as well. Now let's jump in here and get started with the Washington Capitals and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, these two teams have never met in the playoffs before. Obviously, Columbus is trying to win a playoff series for the first time. Washington is trying to get further than the second round, which is something they haven't done under Alex Ovechkin's tenure in Washington. So they both have a lot to prove here in the playoffs. And to be completely honest, I think the main thing that's going to boil down to here is goaltending. Obviously, Braden Holtby's had a bit of a struggle this year for the Capitals. He's been a little bit inconsistent. I'm wondering if fatigue might be an issue for him after playing all those games the last few years. So I wouldn't be completely shocked if they go with Grubauer in net for Game 1. They may stick with Holtby and then go to Grubauer if need be. But either way, I think there's a pretty good chance we're going to see Grubauer in the series, if not in Game 1. On the other side, you got Sergei Bobrovsky, who's trying to prove his worth in the playoffs as well. He's got a tremendous regular season record throughout his career, but yet he's yet to really win anything in the playoffs. Now, of course, the last two times Columbus has gone in the first round, they had to play the Penguins as well. So obviously they have a potent offense. Maybe we shouldn't put too much stock into the fact that they lost there. Maybe they were just too much overmatched. And if they had met in a later round, we wouldn't be having that discussion. But either way, they both have a lot to prove here between the Capitals goalies and the Columbus goalies. So I think it's going to really boil down to whoever gets better goaltending might very well win that series. Now, if you take a look at special teams, which certainly plays a big role in regards to playoff victories, you get the Capitals were number 7 in the league on the power play, and they were number 15 on the PK. And Columbus was 25 on the power play and 27 on the PK. So Washington definitely has an edge on special teams. Washington definitely has probably an edge too when it comes to offense and playoff experience. Even though this team has not gone real far in the playoffs, they've got more playoff games under their belt. So they certainly have the advantage that way. I think their top 6 defenders are better than Washington's, and even their extra guys that may not necessarily start the series in the lineup are probably better as well than the depth guys on the Washington side. So I think Columbus has a clear advantage on D. They may have an advantage in goal if Bobrovsky can play like he does in the regular season. So it might boil down to some scoring and some special teams, with Washington definitely has an advantage there. So it's a really tough series to call. I would not be surprised to see this go at least 6 or 7 games. I know they've lost in the second round many times here against the Penguins. I think they're going to make it at least back that far. This team has just been too good in the regular season, and I think special teams are going to play a role. And I have the Washington Capitals going over the Jackets in 6 games. Next up, let's look at the Pittsburgh Penguins playing the Philadelphia Flyers. Obviously, we have an all-state battle here, the Battle of Pennsylvania. Should be an interesting series. You know, Philadelphia is one of those teams that we've seen kind of go up and down over the years here as a playoff team, out of the playoffs, in the playoffs, out. And every once in a while, they seem to have a magical run under their belts. So I don't know if this will be the year where they dethrone the back-to-back champions and go on a run. They're certainly going to have their work cut out for them. If you take a look at, break things down here by category, again, I give Pittsburgh the advantage when it comes to offense. But at the same time, you can almost call that even. If you look at the year that Claude Giroux's had, Jake Voracek, Sean Couturier, Gostisbehere, like the Flyers are pretty potent offensively as well. But when it comes to defense and goaltending, I think we have to give the edge to the Penguins. I mean, obviously, the Flyers have had a hard time with goaltending all year. A lot of it due to health reasons, really more than anything else. I mean, they probably are going to start Brian Elliott, as be my gut instinct here for the first game against the Pens. And, you know, he just might have some magic in him to maybe steal a series. Like, he has had some moments where he's played very well in this league, and maybe he gets that done. But at the end of the day here, I think you got a 2-time back-to-back champion on the other side with Matt Murray. I just think the goaltending edge goes to the Penguins. If you look at the decor, Philly's decor is young, up and coming, and there's a lot of potential there. But I think Pittsburgh's side has more experience, obviously, with the back-to-back championships. They have a lot of returning players from last year, and I think they just have too much experience and too much depth down the middle as well after picking up Brassard. For Brassard to be a number 3 center goes to show how deep your team is. It can put Riley Sheahan on the third. or in the fourth line. So it really rounds out their lineup well. Obviously, Brassard has been injured, so hopefully he's back for game 1 for Pittsburgh. That right now seems to be a little bit unclear with a couple days to go before the games get underway here. But I do have to say that I think the Penguins are going to win this series. I'm going to pick the Penguins to win in 6 games. I think the Flyers are going to give them a good run, but at the end of the day, I just don't think they have the decor and the goaltending to really compete here against Pittsburgh. I mean, Pittsburgh has the #1 power play in the NHL this regular season, and Philly's PK was near the worst. So this time of year, that's something that's really going to come back to bite you. So I think special teams, experience, goaltending, and depth is going to side with the Penguins, and I'm going to take the Penguins over the Flyers in 6 games. Now moving along to the Bruins against the Leafs. This is also another series that I suspect will be close. It was really tough to call. These two teams, I think, are a really good matchup for each other. And no matter what here, they both had fantastic regular seasons. It's unfortunate that they have to meet so early, as one of them was going to get knocked out. The big concern for me, though, was the health of the Boston players. They've had a lot of significant injuries this year, and even though they don't have too many guys out right now, I really have to wonder on the health of some of their guys. I mean, we all know players play hurt through the tough part of the regular season into the playoffs, trying to help their team win. We've seen pretty significant injuries for Bergeron and McAvoy, especially. Backus has missed time, Krejci's missed time. So you can't help but wonder, are they really healthy? We know for sure that Brandon Carlo is not going to be in the lineup for this series at all, so that's certainly going to hurt on the back end. So without Carlo, and you don't have McAvoy, maybe not at 100%, you have Chera, who's still effective but aging and not as quick as he used to be. You got Nick Holden's played a pretty decent role, usually often playing a #4 spot because of the injuries they've had. Grizzlick's been a pleasant surprise as well. So I think overall they've done well considering. But you can only get so far, and I think that was Boston's Achilles heel last year against the Senators as well. When they lost out, they just were too banged up, and they went through too many defensemen, and they just didn't have the depth. Even though they have a lot of it, it's really being tested here, and I'm just not sure that that's going to last. I mean, if they run into too many injuries here, it could be the difference. But from the Toronto side, I think I'd probably give a slight edge in goal from Freddie Anderson over Tuukka Rask as of the recent play at least. But I mean, they're both great goalies, had pretty good seasons, so not a drastic difference there. But Anderson, I think, has been the Leafs MVP for me. If you look at their top 4 defensemen on the Leafs side, you've got Riley, Gardner, Zaitsev, Hainsey. There's some good experience there now. I mean, obviously Zaitsev's a little bit newer to the lineup, but we saw Gardner and Riley have a little bit more experience. They got the very experienced Ron Hainsey coming off a cup win with the Penguins last year. So I do like the Leafs defense matching up against the Bruins, mainly because of injuries. If it wasn't for injuries, I definitely would give the edge to Boston. Up front, though, they both have a lot of firepower. But I think one thing that's going to play a role here is special teams. The Boston Bruins were #3 on the PK, #4 on the power play. So very, very solid special teams, especially with a lot of guys coming and going into the lineup. They made a lot of additions towards the end of the year, but I mean, they are going to be likely missing or potentially missing Rick Nash and Riley Nash as well up at the forward position to start the series. It is possible. I haven't been confirmed if they're going to be in or not, but at the end of the day here, the Bruins' depth is really going to be tested, but I am going to pick the Bruins to win. I think it's going to go 7 games. I think it's going to be a very tight series all the way through. Now, the one thing that I think that will cause me to be wrong here, if it happens, would be injuries to the Bruins. I don't think there's a lot of room there to really test their depth, even though they have a lot of it. Like I said, it's really being tested. The Leafs are extremely healthy. You don't really have any injuries that are worth talking about at all, which is good for them going into the playoffs. So if that holds up, we might see a Leaf upset here, but at the end of the day, I think Boston is going to do what they've done all season long and battle through adversity and get through this first round victory, although it's going to take every period, every ounce of fight they have left in them to get through the Leafs, and they're going to win in 7 games. The Tampa Bay Lightning against the New Jersey Devils. Now, this is an interesting series as well. I think the Devils match up better against the Lightning probably than a lot of other teams. They did win the season series. They won twice in regulation and once in overtime. So, I mean, obviously they've done quite well against Tampa this season. Overall, though, if you had to compare certain areas of the games, you definitely would give an edge in goal to Tampa. Vasilevsky's had a tremendous year, whereas, yes, Keith Kincaid's played well for the Devils lately, but, can he keep that up? It's really a big question mark. Corey Schneider's been injured a lot this year and hasn't been in his best form when he's been in the lineup. So Kincaid's likely going to run with the ball here through the playoffs to see how far he can get. The Devils do have a lot of young guys as well that have certainly had tremendous seasons and developed a lot this year, and that's certainly going to be tested. Their lack of experience, their leading scorer, Taylor Hall, is a leading scorer by a lot, and he's never played a playoff game. So their experience is certainly going to be tested here, and I think with Tampa, between you got Kucherov and you got Stamkos up front. You know, on the back end, you've got Hedman, McDonough, Vasilevsky in the net. You even look at their secondary scoring like Johnson and Palat. They just have a lot of depth. And even though Tampa hasn't played their best hockey going into the playoffs, I fully suspect Coach John Cooper to get things together, and I think the Tampa Bay Lightning will take out the Devils. If you look at special teams, the one area of Tampa that is not real great is their penalty killing. They rank 28th in the league. So if they run into penalty trouble and become undisciplined, that's something the Devils could take advantage of. The Devils were very balanced with their special teams this year. They were number 10 on the power play and number 8 on the PK, whereas the Devils were 28th and the PK number 3 in the power play. So it goes both ways. Tampa gets too many power play opportunities, they're going to make you pay. But at the same time, I just don't think that they're going to be that undisciplined. The odds are just too much stacked up against the Devils. They've had a great season. Obviously, they come a long way to get back into the playoff picture. But I think the stronger team, the Tampa Bay Lightning, wins out here. And I'm going to say that they win in 5 games. I think that Tampa will end up dropping one to the Devils. But I think overall, they're going to be the first team to wrap up their series and be waiting in the second round to see who they play next. So those are my predictions for the Eastern Conference playoffs. Leave yours down in the comments below. We want to discuss this. It's just really for a fun exercise to see what everybody thinks. We can come back and look at this after the playoffs to see how much of this we actually had right and how much of it we got wrong. This is a really hard thing to predict. So like I said, it's just for fun, but it seems to be something that everybody likes doing and making predictions. So I thought we'd jump in and give you ours. If you're new to the channel, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams. There's plenty of content here for all fan bases to enjoy. If you haven't done so already, consider following us on Twitter. You're going to find our Twitter handle on the screen right here. We're very active on that account, so check that out. As always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We'll catch you next time.